Hello there. Today we're going to talk about one of Canada's iconic QSR, quick serve restaurant brands, and that is, of course, A&W. A&W was such a huge part of my growing up in the interior in the Kootenays. The mom and dad would pack all of us kids up in the back of the car. Dad would put sheets on us to protect the upholstery, and we would go to the A&W drive-in for car service. And it was such a huge part of my growing up. So my guest today is Erin Branconnier. And Erin, you spent a lot of time working with A&W as opposed to necessarily, although you probably grew up with it as I did as well. Tell me about your career with A&W, first of all.
Sure. I did grow up with it. I remember going to A&W drive-ins when I was little as well. So it's been part of my life for as long as I can remember. I am a business manager with A&W, and I've been in this role for 17 years now, coming up on 18 this summer. But before that, I worked for a franchisee at a restaurant for 7 years. So A&W definitely is in my blood. We say root beer in the veins.
Root beer in the veins. I like that. So when I last interacted with A&W, it was just before COVID, and the company was celebrating this huge milestone of 1,000 restaurants. And it was a big deal, and there was all these big promotional advertising, and then COVID hit. So tell me about those first few weeks of trying to figure out what the future of the QSR business was going to be under COVID restrictions.
Yeah, last March was a whirlwind for us, just like everyone else. And the start of March, we had a convention with all of our franchisees. We were excited to celebrate the 1,000th restaurant that was going to be opening soon. And we were just really excited for the prospects of 2020. And COVID hit, and we changed our plans. We started to focus on what we could do in our restaurants, how we could stay open, and really making sure that our franchisees were well, that their staff were well, and that we did everything we could to support them and our communities that we were in.
So I know this isn't necessarily your area of responsibility, but one of the things that really impressed me about A&W was that during those early days of COVID, when everybody was putting out their messaging about we're here for you, here's what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing a big flashy promo piece, A&W did some very modest, almost handheld video with Alan, the main spokesperson. Can you talk to me a little bit about where that came from, if you know, Erin?
Yeah, I think it was really about, just reaching out to our guests and our communities to let them know that it was about being there for them during this time, and not about price promotion or menu promotion. It was really about just being strong for our communities and our teams and our franchisees in our restaurants. So it really that was our focus, to be true to ourselves.
So now my assumption, and I'm asking this anecdotally, I would think that some of your, like the drive-through restaurants in the more rural locations, are probably doing more business than usual, but the urban, city and off, because nobody's going to the office. So how is the company balancing out the interests of the franchisees that are invested maybe in the areas that aren't doing as well? Like, what's the overall business plan to help everybody?
Yeah, you got it really right on the nose. So our drive-through restaurants are seeing more guests than in our drive-throughs than we're typically used to. That changed really quickly earlier in 2020 and has continued through the pandemic. We see more guests at our drive-through than in our takeout or dine-in, where those are still available, which is not very many spots across the country right now. And our urban businesses and shopping centers have really been impacted by the restrictions. So people aren't working downtown, they're not traveling downtown, they're not going to shopping centers. Most shopping centers in many provinces are closed or have really high restrictions on them. So we've really tried to help and be supportive to all of our franchisees in the different concepts, and just trying to be there for them and help them through the pandemic as best we can.
How significant a change do you think COVID is going to make to the quick serve restaurant industry in the long term? Is it going to come back to where it was, do you think, or are things going to change fundamentally?
Yeah, I do think that it'll come back in the long term. I think for the short term, things are going to stay very similar to what they are now. I don't think any of those extra measures, like our staff wearing masks or removing plexiglass barriers on our counters or between tables, or those extra sanitization steps that we're doing, I don't think any of those are going to go away. And in any way in the near future. But long term, I do believe that guests are going to want to come back to restaurants and eat out of their homes again. And I think it'll come back, but it'll be some time.
And what's your overall goal with A&W? What do you want to accomplish in your career with the company?
Great question. I love A&W. It's such a great company to work for. They have such a feeling of a family. I feel so welcomed, and I just want to continue my career with them. To be honest, I want to stay living in Manitoba and working with our franchisees that I work with and all of my colleagues, and just keep going with where the company is going, supportive of farmers and good food, serving good food to our communities, and just doing everything we can to have a really sustainable business and a sustainable world.
Well, thank you very much, Erin. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and again, to check in on this iconic brand. It's been such a big part of our lives, and as you say, I hope it always continues to be, because it's always been a nice leveling influence and something to look forward to. So thanks very
Joanna.
much.
Okay. It was nice talking with you.
You too. Bye for now.
Bye.